Hi, I'm Brittany Pacheco, and you're tuning into The Watchers in the Basement. Welcome, everyone. We're doing things a little different. As you can see, I am not with the guys today. This is a female hosted podcast now. No, I'm just kidding. But for this series, yes, it is. I am joined by my fabulous friend here, Amber Churchwell. Amber, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, and you're officially a watcher now.
Oh gosh, I didn't actually make that connection. um, yeah, I listen and watch the lives for House of the Dragon,
Woo!
and I am kind of getting I have to catch up on all the Marvel ones, but I'm getting there. And I do have plans for the boys, but I actually haven't finished the new the boys season. So
So good.
yeah, but I'm a huge fan of the Handmaid's Tale, and I yeah, so when you were asking if I was a fan, I kinda jumped on it.
Yes. No, I was so excited just because I think I mentioned to you, but to our viewers and followers out there, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe. We just hit 100 subscribers. Now we're on the mission for 200. 200? Wow, I cannot talk. I'm so excited, Amber. we're on
200.
we're on the mission for 200 subscribers. Help make that happen. But last year with the Handmaid's Tale season 4, I did this as a solo pod. So it was fine because obviously you hear my thoughts, but it's definitely better to have another person to converse with, to share ideas and discuss theories. So I'm super excited that, for one, you're a fan of the show, two, you've also read the book, and
Yes.
three, you're like, hell yes, I will join the pod. Where do I sign up? Kind of thing.
Yes. Kinda jumped at
But
the chance.
yeah, exactly. But Amber also has her own YouTube channel. So Amber, talk a little bit about your channel.
Well, my channel, it's about Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts and the Wizarding World. It is called OllivAmber's Wands, a study of wands in the Wizarding World. So, it's basically every episode I pick a character from the Wizarding World and I talk about their wand, about the wood it's made out of, the core, and I go into the cultural and historical backgrounds of that and compare that to the character's personality and see if it fits. It's very fun, very in depth. But yeah, we just passed a year and we are just a
Yay!
little bit shy of our first 200 subscribers.
So y'all out there, go show Amber some love. Go support her channel. I'm going to have her links in the description box down below. She also has an Instagram that you can go follow
Yes.
as well. That's at olivambers.wands. So if you're into Harry Potter, wands, want to learn about wand lore, she's your girl. Go check it out.
Yeah. Or I mean, just talk to me in general. I love
There you
friends.
go. That works too. You like musicals? Talk to Amber.
We've spent a lot of time talking about musicals.
Yes. That's going to happen one day, y'all. Don't worry. We're expanding the Watchers universe. We're going to be talking about musicals. We might even have some of the guys join us. Who knows?
Ooh.
But for today, we are going to be talking about Hulu's original series, The Handmaid's Tale. We are in our 5th season, and I personally thought it was going to be their final season. However, recently the announcement was made that they're going into a 6th season, and it's their final season. So,
Mhm.
Amber, are you looking forward to having another season, even though we're not even
Yeah.
done with this one?
Yeah, I kind of experienced this with the another show that I'm very interested in. The What We Do in the Shadows, the vampire show.
Mhm.
They just before the recent season that just finished, season 4, they announced that they were going to have 6 total seasons. So
Okay.
what I feel like watching that show, it actually benefited them because they knew ahead of time, hey, we're going to have this amount of space to be able
Mhm.
to do character arcs and character development. It gave them a good cushion so they didn't feel rushed and nothing and everything was really well developed and well written. I
Mhm.
feel like that could be the same case here since we
Yes.
know, hey, this is where it's going to end. This is the time frame, the slot that we have. We
Yes.
know what we got to do in that time frame.
Absolutely. And we've talked about this, you and I, off screen, but there is a sequel book to The Handmaid's Tale also written by Margaret Atwood. It's called The Testaments. And quick spoilers for y'all, it is a big time jump from Handmaid's Tale timeline to a completely different timeline. That's all I'm going to say. If you haven't read the
Yeah.
book, please do so. I'm thinking that the Handmaid's Tale series is going to end because we're going to get an actual show based on the Testaments. I don't know. I'm going to manifest that. I'm going to speak it into existence. I hope it happens because there's a
Yeah.
lot that goes on in that.
And honestly, like even with House of the Dragon, like that kind of proves the point that something continuing, and also the goodness, I am blanking. Lord of the Rings.
Rings of
Rings of
Power.
Power. Like Rings of Power, like those movies have been done for a long time, and
Yes.
we are getting a series about that.
Yes.
We get Game of Thrones, and then we get House of the Dragon. So I
Mhm.
wouldn't say it's impossible.
Right.
Yeah.
I totally agree. So let's hope that happens. But Amber, let's go ahead and get into the season 5 premiere of The Handmaid's Tale, which dropped this past Wednesday, which was September 14th. We got not just one, we got 2 episodes. So we've got a lot to unpack today with
Mhm.
talking about 2 episodes. And we're going to go ahead and jump right into it for episode 1 entitled Morning. What was your overall thoughts on this episode?
Um, I think mostly I don't wanna say disappointed about it. I think it was more I expected it to be a little bit slower compared to how the very big impact that the last season ended on. I
Mhm.
mean, with Fred's salvaging and, um, death. The I think with all of that, that was something very highly anticipated. We waited for, like, what, 3 seasons for that. Now it's
Mhm.
4 seasons technically. We waited 4 seasons for that. We were very excited.
Yes.
So now after something very high stakes, very high intensity, I'm not too surprised that this one felt a little bit slower.
Mhm.
There were some things that I was a little like, I loved the imagery. I loved
Mhm.
the, um, seeing, Serena's reaction and response to it. I'm very, very intrigued, in the mental state of June.
Aren't we
Yeah.
all?
Yeah, that's a big, big, uh, big discussion,
It
but
is
we'll definitely have time to talk about it, but
for sure.
that's what I think really sold it and was really intriguing to me the most
Okay.
for the first episode, and, we'll get to the second episode later, but
Yeah, for sure.
what about you?
And I agree. I feel like it was kind of like a slow start
Mhm,
because with the ending of season 4 was that big, big change of kind of plot twist, if you will,
mhm.
and no more Commander Waterford. This man literally founded the nation of Gilead, and June took her revenge. It wasn't just June, it was June and the handmaids that were able to get out of
Mhm,
Gilead. And it was insane. I wasn't really sure what to expect with the first episode of the new season.
mhm.
However, it was slow paced.
Yeah.
I will say I was just like eh,
Mhm.
it's okay. But the episode does focus heavily on June and Serena, and we do get little sprinkles here and there about other characters.
Yeah.
So let's start with June because obviously she is the main character. This woman is a force to be reckoned with, very much like her opposition that is Serena. But we do start this episode with being back in Canada, of course. And June is in a very awkward, I say awkward, but concerning state of mind.
Yes.
Uh, as we just discussed, she helped coordinate the murder of her former commander. She came home to see her daughter. She's bloodied, and
Yeah,
she still is bloodied at the beginning of this episode,
for
and she's
most
in
of
the
the
back
episode.
for most of the episode. Yes, you're right, and she's in the bathroom. It seems like she's about to take a shower. And Amber, I got to say this off the bat. Like, I'm so over these long stares into the camera. I'm over it.
too. It just maybe because I get like really bad secondhand embarrassment from things like
I
through
get it.
shows. Like if something embarrassing happens to the main character, I'm embarrassed. It's a thing. So it's like those intense stares. I'm just like, don't look at me. Like it's
Like
just,
the,
yeah.
yeah, I
I'm
get it.
tired of it, and
Yeah.
it's like I get the point of them. It was like to show, you know, her rage, her mental state, the like things that she like who she is as a character. You know, she's
Mhm.
the fire starter, she's the rebellion, things like that.
Mhm.
We know that.
Yeah.
This is season 5. You know that
Move
already.
it along.
Yeah, or at least like shorten them up a little bit. Like if you have
Yeah.
her just look up at the camera, cool. That's fine. Like just a
Mhm.
little whoop, but not like a solid 5 minutes.
Oh, and you know, Elizabeth Moss, who plays June Osborne, you know, she's been directing a lot of these episodes as of season 4. You know,
Mhm.
kudos to her. I think that's amazing, especially when you're so involved in the story. She's also an executive producer for the show. But I would highly suggest cutting down those long stair scenes. But we're
Yes.
gonna not linger on that point. It's just something I wanted to throw out there. But again, June is in the bathroom. She's bloodied. She's kind of reliving this dream-like state of
Mhm.
having murdered Fred, and we get the flashbacks to them running in the woods and things like that. But I wanted to ask you, like, are we definitely seeing like a darker version of June? Like,
Mhm.
the the fact that she and the handmaids committed this crime, because let's face it,
Yeah.
it is a crime. Um, you know, can what how do I want to phrase this? What they did, can we call that justice?
I think emotionally, yes.
Mhm.
Uh, morally, probably not. I I think that she did get her catharsis from this,
Mhm.
especially like evident with her discussion with the other handmaids later on, like when they were calling for blood for the
Yep.
for who did them wrong, for their abusers. She was very much like, I'm good. My thing's square. Like it was
Yeah.
she seemed to get the catharsis she needed.
Mhm.
Um it was mentally, I don't really know if that's going to be enough for her considering she definitely has problems with Serena. We saw that near the end of last season and
Mhm.
um definitely in these 2 episodes specifically with how they're showing in these first episodes the contrast between them,
Mhm.
comparing and contrasting them. There's a lot of imagery, not just in plot, but like visual imagery as well for
Right.
that. And I think so. I don't think she's done,
Mhm.
but whether it's called justice, I think that really depends on which faction you're looking at.
Sure. And I think you're right in saying that, because for sure June's fellow handmaids, you know, her sister in arms, if you will, you know,
Mhm.
they, like you said, they at least are not done, because they want to march back into Gilead and take care of the other people who have done them wrong, the wives, the aunts. We learned that Emily, played by Alexis Bledel,
Mhm.
has gone back into Gilead to do what she needs to do.
Yes.
And that, for those of you who may not be aware, Alexis Bledel announced in May that she was not returning to the show. So this was just kind of like the way to exit her character,
Mhm.
which I think it was done well. I think it makes sense, because
Yeah.
June kind of sparked this revolution amongst these women.
Mhm.
And June, in my opinion, has always been pretty self-centered. And
Yeah.
so for her to not necessarily join arms with the other handmaids and to go back into Gilead, or to, you know, get more blood, it totally makes sense, because the fact
Yeah.
that it's always been about her.
Mhm.
And so when she got called out on that by one of the handmaids, the former handmaids,
Yes.
I was like, "Oh, like, there's that rude awakening that she needed." We could have done
Yeah.
it without the gun being pointed in her face,
Yeah, I
but
mean, I get I forgot her name, the one who aimed the gun at her, but
Vicky?
yeah,
Vicky.
Vicky, yes. Um, I mean, I can't really blame her, I would be frustrated too, but yeah, you're right. June does come from a very selfish, like, she just wants to deal with her trauma and her revenge and her, vendettas,
Mhm,
while she doesn't really wanna focus on anyone else's, which that makes a lot of sense and from what we've seen. I at first I was a little bit surprised about Emily, because I
mhm,
actually didn't know that the actress said she was not returning. So
okay.
I was a little taken aback. I was like, I would not have expected Emily to go back.
Yeah.
And but then I kind of started listening, like thinking about it and seeing her face before they were attacking Fred. Like she definitely changed because in the beginning, like
Mhm,
in the when June first arrived, I feel like Emily was very much like, I'm starting to settle here in Canada. I'm doing all right. I'm trying to heal. I'm trying to do better and trying to get away from all that. But then
mhm,
I feel like with how June responded with that aunt that was trying to reconcile with Emily,
mhm,
I feel like that kind of lit a fire under her butt.
yeah,
It made her realize, like, oh, there are other ways to heal. Like, I can be angry. I don't have to just be meekly subservient to what happened to me, to my trauma. I can actually do something about it. And I think
mhm,
that so taking it from that view, I'm like, oh, okay. She went back for probably for Aunt Lydia. I get it.
right. Right, and that's the thing, it seems like whatever June touches, it turns to something darker,
Yes.
right? Because and I think you said it extremely well with Emily, she seemed like she was slowly kind of getting back on her feet and slowly
Mhm.
rebuilding that relationship with her wife and her son, but she still wanted to help those out of Gilead.
Yeah.
But then June comes back into the picture, and June's all about revenge. She's all about,
Mhm.
nailing Fred to the wall, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying is there's something about June that brings the worst out of people, it
Mhm.
seems. And I understand because she, like the other handmaids, all share more or less the same kind of trauma, and they all want some sort of justice for the
Mhm.
injustice that has been bestowed upon them. So there's a time and a place for it, but
Yes.
when you start sacrificing your family,
Mhm.
and in fairness, it's really tough to kind of even debate that because the handmaids, had been without their families for so many years. All they
Yes.
had was one another. So it also seems very natural that Emily would have decided, I got to go back. I have
Mhm.
to be who I am because they changed. They changed from the people before Gilead.
They
And
were,
Gilead,
yeah.
yeah, and Gilead completely changed them. We definitely saw that with June and Luke.
Mhm.
She seemed to have a stronger relationship with Nick than she did with Luke because she had been around Nick. So I don't
They
know what the
morphed into new people
Mhm.
together under the similar circumstances
It's
in ways that
survival of the
Luke didn't
fittest.
see. Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally survival of the fittest, and
Mhm.
um I totally understand. And it's hard to adjust back into what would have been their normal life when you've experienced all this trauma. But going
Yes.
back to Emily, I don't know the likelihood that we'll get to see her in the next season, although Elizabeth
Mhm.
Moss has expressed welcoming Alexis. And it's not like they ended on bad terms or anything like
Yeah.
that. Alexis just decided, I'm good. Like I want to move on to other things or
Yeah.
stuff going on in her life. But Elizabeth has said if she wants to come back, hey, we'll be more than welcoming, her back.
Mhm.
But I also thought the exchange between Emily's wife, Sylvia, to June
Yes.
was extremely powerful for someone who lost her wife twice, once because it wasn't her doing or her choosing, and the
Mhm.
second time because it was her choosing, I would be mad
Yeah.
as hell. Like, how would you like
I would
perceive?
be very angry and I would be devastated, but I feel like I would come off of it. That would channel through anger with me for me. And I think she was angry. She just and I think kind of like how I said, I think that Emily was more inspired by June, like how everybody is.
Yes,
That the myth, the legend of June Osborne. Um, that should be a shirt. Um,
she's a goat.
then, then I feel like she knew that. She saw what
Hmm.
I saw, that Emily was different before June arrived in Canada.
Hmm.
And she seemed like she was getting better. Like, yeah, that she did experience her own traumas and her own horrors that she
Yes.
had to deal with, and she was doing that.
Hmm.
And then June comes back, and uh, so
Kind
I
of
think
poisons everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was very interesting, and I don't honestly when she said that she won't tell June anything if Emily reaches out to her, I'm not surprised, and I can't blame her for that.
No.
Um, because a lot of it is June. Like whether she
All
intentionally
of
did
it.
it or not, yeah. Whether she did it intentionally or not, like within her own motives, it drove other people's too.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, and like we don't know about the other handmaids.
Hmm.
Like these are new handmaids that we are meeting. Like we don't really know them and we don't know their traumas as
Hmm.
much, but they are thirsty for blood.
Yeah.
And I mean, June did have a point though that they can't like her situation was unique. Fred was in Canada and
Yes.
it was a way for her to exploit that to their
Hmm.
advantage.
Yes.
And the other handmaids
Absolutely.
were kind of just like, okay, so when can we do this? When we can do that? And it's like, okay, well, June was right when saying that he probably can't do like Nick probably can't get your
Yeah.
wife that
Get
abused
close
you.
to that wife. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Hmm.
that's logical.
Yeah.
That's true.
Absolutely.
And I think she was very right in saying so.
Hmm.
But and I think those handmaids, they were seeking that bloodlust,
Hmm.
and I get it. Um, they were riding the high of it, and
Hmm.
they wanted to keep going, but you
Yep.
can't.
Right.
And if that situation did arise, who knows? Maybe June would help them if the situation called for it. But I don't think she's going to go out of her way to make it that happen.
It's extremely risky for
Mhm.
anyone to go back into Gilead because
Yes.
it's no one's looking for people to go into Gilead.
Hmm.
They're not watching the border. They're watching the border to see if anyone's trying to escape.
Yeah.
So what are the chances that someone who's escaped who goes back in is going to be able to escape again? We saw that even with June in season
Yes.
4 attempting to leave multiple times, still got to Chicago and encountered problems there. Um, Real quick to talk about when Moira and Luke, see June. They
Mm.
see, she's bloodied, and Moira realizes what happened and says that she June savaged Fred, and I like this line that June says, not having really understood Moira's tone,
Yeah.
because Moira is more, she kind of has more of that moral compass that
Hmm.
June is lacking, and Moira is just totally aghast by the
Yes.
situation. And June says back to Moira, by her fucking hand. And
Yeah.
obviously it's
Killer
something that
line.
legit. It's obviously something that it's a phrase by his hand, was something that was spoken by the handmaids when they were
Mhm.
bestowing punishment to either I not the eyes, but God, what were they called? The
Guardians.
guardians. Thank you. I could not think of the word. guardians who did wrong, Marthas who did wrong, other handmaids who did wrong, anyone who
Mhm.
needed to be punished. And it was by the handmaids who would pull the rope, and they have the nooses coming up, and they would
Yep.
say, by his hand, pull it one more time, and everyone dies.
Yeah.
So
And
insane
also,
line.
like, even just, like, the subtle change from his to her is, like,
Hmm.
so impactful considering Gilead is very hyper-religious.
Hmm.
So, the by his hand is by the hand of God is what they were
Yes.
intending, and it's so for June to say, "By her fucking hand,"
Hmm.
that was just like, I remember when I first heard it, I was like, "Oh, oh."
Yeah.
Like, I was just, like, it shows where granted, her mindset is very fractured right now because again, I
Yes.
do the psychology of June. Um,
Yeah.
pretty sure I could have, like, an entire hour just talking about that, but, um, her mindset is very fractured, but
Hmm.
for her to say that
Hmm.
and to change it to her hand, I just was like, "Okay, this is she has definitely reached some kind of clarity."
Exactly. Well, and the fact that Gilead suppresses women,
Yeah.
and the fact that these women took matters into their own hands, and
Yes.
by their fucking hands, they killed a commander. They killed a founding commander, which is
Yeah.
incredibly impactful.
Yeah.
Um, we're gonna keep moving forward. The fact that after June spoke with Sylvia, Emily's wife,
Mhm.
and learned about the fact that Emily returned to Gilead, June's now realizing, oh crap, the kind
Yeah.
of impact she has now had on someone who is very close to her.
Mhm.
And now
In the
she's
beginning, yeah.
realizing, oh, I've got a man's blood on my body. It's all over my face, my fingers, the car. And
Yeah.
she's like, okay, now I need to like bathe, be cleansed of this, because
Mhm.
this is not okay. And what I liked about this scene where she goes into the public bathroom to frantically rinse off, and it's like she's like scratching at herself almost, and she just can't get the blood off of her and
Yeah.
what have you. But then she goes to a body of water and goes into, well, not really into the water, but she starts washing herself there.
Mhm.
And in terms of like Macbeth, if you really want to dive deep,
Yeah.
that's a visual metaphor for feeling guilty, for being guilty for the whatever thing that you've done.
Mhm.
But water, in at least many religious institutions, water is representation of a rebirth. So hopefully,
Mhm.
with June, she's washing away her sins of Dark June, as I'm going to call her, and going to start anew. What are your thoughts about all that?
Yeah, I definitely saw, like, the cleansing, the symbolism there. I and also, like, I noticed this 'cause I rewatched the episode a little bit today, and I that there were several times where she saw the blood markings
Mhm.
from herself, like on the baby towel in their
Yes.
home, and then later on at the diner when seeing it on her glass, seeing her
Mhm.
fingerprints of blood. Like, she didn't seem to mind then. She's just because she's in that, I
She's
guess.
she's here. Tunnel vision.
Yeah, like, I mean, you could consider it like she is. I wouldn't say dissociating, but I'm definitely saying she's hyper focusing, and
Mhm.
that is it. Like, this
Mhm.
is what happened, and I'm just feeling this, and
Mhm.
that's it. But once after she talked to Sylvia is when she started realizing it and thinking it as a problem.
Mhm.
Because and I think you're right. It does show that somebody who was with her from the very beginning, Emily, somebody she does care about, because she doesn't care about the other handmaids that were there. She doesn't care
No.
about them,
Not
but she
one
does
bit.
care about Emily,
Yes.
and she cares about her. So having that conversation with Sylvia and that Emily's gone now because of her actions and motivated by her actions,
Mhm.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, it's guilt, a little bit
Mhm.
of guilt, and that's kind of, I think, what led her to trying to turn herself in.
For sure.
And I really I'm actually very fascinated by that. I was so shocked by it, and I mean, they did say that it was in no man's land before. Like,
Mhm.
we knew that. I just didn't
Yes.
think that I think just like June, I expected more.
It's difficult for sovereigns to try and bestow some sort of punishment when neither sovereign can declare
Yeah.
that area of land. And it was interesting with June wanting to turn herself in at
Mhm.
all, because it's kind of like, okay, is she doing it because she genuinely feels like she needs to be punished for her crimes? Or is it because of the fact that, like in Gilead, when you do the bad thing, the punishment comes almost immediate, right? And
Mhm.
so is it conditioning? Like you are seeking to be reprimanded because you're conditioned for it? Or again, is the guilt of having committed such a crime
Mhm.
really weighing on her? But the fact that, her husband is there at the police station
Yeah.
and listening to her, and he's just kind of like, first of all, he was kind of like, just take this whole situation as a fucking win. Like, I'm not going to say
Yeah.
anything against it. Like, you're here, you're my concern, you're my life,
Mhm.
don't worry about it. And then when he learns that she's going to turn herself in, he's protesting it. He's just like, no, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And June is talking with the prosecutor. She, not in great detail, but in detail, explains what she did, saying she
Mhm.
acted alone. And then the prosecutor comes back and says, well, because you committed this in no man's land, the crown has no quarrel with you.
Yeah.
To June's like utter disgust.
Yeah. And I think it definitely was a difference of how Gilead treats when you do something
Mm-hmm.
morally bad, by Gilead standards.
Yeah,
You
reading a
get, like
book, chop off a finger.
yeah, like, you get very harsh punishments, and you're
Mm-hmm.
right, they are almost immediate,
Yeah.
and I feel like she did expect it, like, "Hey, I killed someone," and so you're right, she was disgusted, she was shocked, and I was too. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense. Like, when they were explaining, like, "The crown has no quarrel with you. It was in no man's
Mm-hmm.
land. Nobody like, you're good. Like, just give us 88 bucks and that's it. Like, see you
Right.
later."
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
it's
she did broke border laws by
yeah.
transporting Fred's severed finger to
Yes.
Serena, and $88. Like, are you serious? Like, to me, the whole justice system in this
Yeah.
scenario, in terms of what the Canadian government could do, is
Yeah.
absurd. Totally
Mhm.
absurd. I,
Yeah,
I
and
I was sitting there like, you've got to be effing kidding me.
yeah, I was I was so shocked, and she was too.
Hmm.
She just kinda just sat there for a second, just like, "Wait, what just happened?" And, like, she even tried to be like, "But I killed him." Like,
Yeah,
trying to be like, "Did
exactly,
you not hear me?" And
exactly.
I shouldn't be laughing. Um,
Well, no,
I
it's just
think
it's not funny because she got away with murder. I mean, quite literally, she
it's funny
got
because it's
away with
Fred.
murder. It's it's funny because the whole idea is absurd. You do a
Mhm.
bad thing, you're supposed to be punished. And the fact that the
Yeah,
officer who said, "Okay, well, you do have a fine of $88 for transporting like uh, bio- biological matter or whatever to
yeah.
across the border," and June's like, "I don't have $88. Oh, you can pay online." Who does that?
It's so absurd. Like, that's a human finger. Like, and it's just 88 bucks, like, "Oh, here's a" it's not even a slap on the wrist, it's a tap on the wrist compared to what
It's a
Gilead
tap on the
does.
finger.
I
Sorry,
don't know
I
how I
had
missed
to.
that one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Um,
So, yeah, she
Yeah,
got
like,
away with
compared to
murder.
Gilead, yeah, like, it's shocking, and I do think you're right. I think she was a little bit conditioned by Gilead, and
Absolutely.
her I think also her guilt was making her want to
Mhm,
make amends. Like, she felt guilty for what happened, that Emily went back and
mhm,
things like that. So she's wants to make amends in some way, shape, or form. Um and she said that. She's like, "How do I like, there's no punishment or anything like that." And
mhm.
the officer who was speaking to her said, "That's between you and your deity of choice." Like,
Yep.
I think that's exactly what she needed to hear
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
she was so conditioned by Gilead, and that to not hear that's between you and God, to hear that's between you and your deity of choice. I think the wording was spectacular.
Absolutely.
Congrats to the script writers because that was just
Oh, for
especially
sure.
with the by her fucking hand. Like,
Oh, I know.
I wanna just
So
give,
many
like, a
people.
little round of applause to, like, the script writers because I mean, guys, like, that would've been perfect if we were synchronized.
Oh, dang.
We
Oh,
should have done that.
we
Anyway,
should have done that anyway. No, you're
um,
you're absolutely right.
yeah.
Her choice of deity to have that conversation with, if you will, or she can
Mhm,
just punish herself. I mean,
mhm,
that's also another option. However, she kind of just has to come to terms with it,
yeah,
and she goes back home, and Moira, rightfully so, is still freaked out by June and her actions and her
yeah,
behavior, quite frankly. And Moira, who, in fairness, has been more of a mother figure to Nicole than June has
yeah,
been, and kind of makes the call of like, I don't think you should be around Nicole right now
mhm,
because you scare me. To which June like completely understands, and she's like,
yeah,
I scare myself. And then she
yes,
still says to Moira, like, I love you. And
mhm,
Moira says it back to her. And so
mhm,
I think saying that June is so fractured is very appropriate, because the fact that there's just so many emotions and so many different things that are going on with her all at once. And it's hard to try to piece yourself back together when there's a part of you that's being tugged, and you want to kind of go back into it, but then
yeah,
there's this new life that you've been given and you don't know how to navigate it.
yes,
But it's difficult.
and I also think with how we were talking about the drastic change in, June's behavior and mindset when before and after talking to Sylvia. Like, I think if she had that conversation with Moira before talking to Sylvia, like, if before getting into, like, the guilt phase,
Mhm.
when she was still riding that high, I think it would've gone in a completely different direction. I think she
Oh,
would've
yeah.
shouted, she would've been mad, she would've been, because
Yeah.
that's the state that she's in, and
Mhm.
I I feel very much like there are it's very I feel like it's a development of 2 different sides of June. There's the
Mhm.
one that is the one who experiences the trauma and deals with it in violent, angry ways, and then
Yes.
the other one that has to reconcile and heal, and that one is trying to make amends and move on. So, I
Right.
feel like she's not fully healing, and she's also not fully insane. So I or bloodthirsty. So I feel like she's definitely completely split between those 2. And different triggers will have different responses to that. So I think Sylvia was it's a good thing she had that talk with Sylvia and everything before talking to Moira,
Yeah.
because otherwise I think that would have made a lot of things worse because I would have just
It
made
would.
Moira even more scared of her. And Moira has every right to be.
For sure. For sure.
And
Also, why is June not in professional help? Like, why?
no
You
idea.
notice that she still has the cuff, the
Mhm.
red tag
Yeah.
on her ear, and I even when she came to Canada, I'm thinking, "Why didn't she have that removed?" Emily had
Mhm.
any sort of ties to Gilead removed from her,
Yeah.
and because we obviously did see June take, ugh, cut her ear to get it off. Yeah, I know.
I like
And
how
then
that's the thing that we're cringing about in this show.
Oh, I know. It's yeah. We'll get there. But she took it off once. She got caught again, so she got retagged, and now she's just leaving it there. And it's like, oh, she wants to have like some sort of ties to Gilead, and it's probably serves as some sort of physical reminder because Hannah is still there. She is so completely motivated to somehow get Hannah back.
I think
Which
it's more like I want to use the word trophy. I think it's a trophy.
Okay.
Kind of like
Okay.
more in the way of like a hunt kind of trophy. That
Mhm.
this is her, hey, I got out. This is what happened to me. This is what I've been through. This is a reminder of Hannah. Like
It's almost like a
there's still
spoils
a
of war.
yeah, exactly. Like this is showing what I did to get here and what I'm doing to get back.
Okay.
And I
I
don't
can get
think
that.
she's going to part with it
No.
anytime soon.
No.
No,
for sure.
I was not surprised by that. And she really needs to be in therapy.
She does.
But
But
also, like they've said before, like when Emily first got to Canada, they said like, "Hey, we have and Moira too. They have therapists, they have people to talk to, and stuff like that." And besides doing that one talk with the handmaids that ended up, being the murder party, like we don't really see June doing anything like that. And
no.
I'm very surprised that Moira and Luke don't seem to be pushing her for it.
I don't know. I'm very concerned about this. But what I was surprised was Mark Twello, who is kind of like this American government official, not official, but
Yeah.
he has some sort of authoritative sense about him. Liaison, thank you. He visits June at her house, and he kind of pretty much tells her like, good job for literally
You
getting
did
away with
good,
murder.
kid.
You did good, kid. No, he seriously was like, hey, like, congrats on like finding the loophole
Yeah.
and getting away with it. And Fred Waterford, may he fucking burn in hell, like just
Amen.
But listen, I have to
Praise be.
briefly talk about Mark Twello because
Yeah.
it feeds right into the next person we're going to talk about. What is up with him and Serena? Does he want her?
Honestly, I don't know because I've gotten these vibes since they first met but that's also the circumstances of how they met. He was trying to flirt with her to get her to talk, and she caught on to that like fire.
She's
Like
a smart woman.
she knew. Yeah, like she knew. So she was very aware of it. But she also didn't, turn him away. She didn't shut him down. She let it happen. And what's really interesting with that is I don't think he is I think he is I think he's fascinated by her. I
think so.
don't Yeah, like I don't think he realizes the extent of it yet.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he does. But I also think he is seeing a completely different view of her than, what we see being
Yeah.
the viewers. And yeah.
I think we'll have to talk a little bit more about Mark Twello when we talk about episode 2, because this is where I really start having major concerns about himself and probably his well-being, just saying. Nick Blaine, who's the father of baby Nicole. We also do see him in the episode. When we last saw him in season 4, he met with June. He got to see his daughter. He passed on information to June about Hannah. And as June's driving away, he slips on a wedding ring.
Yeah.
Talk about cliffhanger. So we
oh
picked
yeah,
up
I
on
was
that.
eating it up.
Oh yeah, we picked up, right on that. He goes home in Gilead, and he is sitting and having a conversation with his wife. Kind of walk us through that, like that conversation, and then your thoughts about his wife.
I So I was very, very curious about this, and even off screen, you and I were talking and theorizing about this before the episodes came out.
Mhm.
We were discussing about theories of who the wife was,
Mhm.
um, if she was a Gilead supporter or loyalist, I guess,
Right.
or if not. We had a couple of theories, and I was a little surprised. I thought
Mhm.
what I was expecting was it was going to be a wife that is a loyalist. She was going to basically, I was, but
Be
maybe I was
another
coming
Eden.
from the angle of this is Gilead's way of giving him another wife after what happened to his last one,
Mhm.
and as a way to watch him.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I was expecting. So when she's asking him how June was and
Yeah.
how did she do what she needed to do? Like, hopefully she'll get some peace from it. Like, she's using Gilead terminology,
Uh-huh.
like,
Yeah.
but I was confused. Like, she was using Gilead
Right.
terminology, but seeming to be supportive of June and June's actions. So I'm not
Yeah.
too sure what to feel about that. I don't know if I
I
should
c
trust her.
I totally can get behind giving him a wife as a way to watch him
Mhm.
because he is an eye, but also if his wife would have ulterior motives to
Mhm.
turn him in if she gets the right information. You know
True.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Or or if she's asking about June as a way to get closure for herself. That way in her mind she figures now that June's out of the picture, he has no
Mhm.
ties to her. He has like no reason to go see her anymore.
Yeah.
We can move on with our lives.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was really strange.
It was.
I'm hoping we get to see maybe a little bit more out of
Mhm.
that whole relationship and see what comes of it. I'm curious if they're gonna get a handmaid. Let's just be real.
Yeah, I'm curious about that too, and, um, you mentioned earlier that because I did read The Handmaid's Tale, the book long, long time ago, and
Mhm.
I'm slowly but surely re-listening to the audiobook of it, and I thought it was interesting that, Nick's wife has a cane, and so did Serena in the books,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so, like, it has to be entirely because my brain, I'm listening to the audiobooks and this
Right.
episode just came out, but I'm like, "Connection?" Um, but that's probably just me being,
I don't
seeing
know.
something. Who knows? But
That would be interesting.
yeah, I just I need to know more about this lady,
Yeah.
and I do have I like Nick, but
Mhm. He's
so
he's a conflicting character though.
yeah, he's definitely conflicted, but girl, I like conflicted like characters and not just guys, but like characters in general. Like
Yeah.
that's the characters that I tend to like in
Yeah.
most media.
Mhm.
So not a surprise, but I feel like I just need to know more about this lady, and I'm very
Sure.
intrigued. You're right.
Sure.
I wonder if they're gonna get a handmaid, but I definitely feel like it's a way to watch him. But I don't know if it's for the better or for the worse.
I can get behind that for sure. I can
Mhm.
definitely get it behind that. Let's talk about Serena
Yes.
because, she's obviously June's opposition. She, while doing prenatal yoga in her little lush, like prison cell,
Yeah.
she's escorted out of the building because her safety is in question after learning that her husband had been murdered.
Mhm.
And when she's visited by Mark Twillo in the new location, and he explains to her about the wedding ring having been sent to Serena along with the
Mhm.
severed finger, Serena's just like, okay, I want the Canadian government to basically
Yeah.
put forth the death penalty
Mhm.
to June because she knew right off the bat this was not Gilead.
Yeah.
Even though she did accuse him, Mark, of not protecting Fred, he explained to her, listen, there was a prisoner exchange. Took him to the border, handed him to Gilead. We got 22 women out of there. Whatever happened in Gilead stays in Gilead.
He
And
did.
And Serena says if the wedding ring was sent to her and it was from the left ring finger, this is not Gilead, this is June.
Yeah.
And I got a little bit ahead of myself, but I wanted to also point out when Serena is, she just got the news about her husband's death, the parallels of like June, when June was like recalling wonderful moments with her family. Serena starts having those callbacks too, warm memories of her and Fred when they were in DC at that ball. And it's so weird because Serena, at least in the show, is such a complex character. It's like you want to like her sometimes, but then you really just hate her because of
Yes,
the
for sure.
despicable things she does. What did you think about the same kind of visual parallels that we would see?
I'm not very surprised about it, but I was very interested in it. I did notice those parallels because we see that, and I also compared that to um June reliving the memories of killing Fred. So I
Mhm.
was like comparing it between like both of them reminiscing about happy moments with their families, but comparing it also to the stark contrast of their views of Fred.
Yeah.
And I also thought it was a little interesting too because maybe Serena feels a little bit of guilt because she was considering leaving Fred. Like,
Mhm.
she was the
Sure
one who
did.
organized them to be captured in Canada. So that was her that did that just so that she could be with Nicole,
Mhm.
which she's not anyway. So it's
By the way, lost total interest when she found out she was pregnant.
yeah,
Just
that
saying.
definitely shows where your her priorities are. But
Mhm.
I just I don't know. I she was thinking of leaving Fred, and she was even talking to Mark Twello about. I feel like I feel like we can't say his name without saying both his names. Um, she was telling him like, "I want to leave Fred," and that's when he was like, "Well, consider the fact that you're pregnant," and then that completely just shifted her
Yeah.
mindset. She's like, "Oh, okay, then I'll be happy with Fred." Like it just kind of, and then finding out that he died.
Right.
So I feel like a little bit guilt, like it was a little bit of guilt too. It wasn't
Sure.
just her reminiscing about losing her husband, it was everything.
There was a lot playing out at that point, and probably because of that guilt, and I think just natural, she was married to the man and she's
Mhm.
carrying his unborn child. She tells Mark that she wants to see her husband's remains. And so initially he's like, no, I don't know if that's possible. But Serena like has this sense of power that she gives off. And it's kind of like, you're gonna do it. And when she is
Yeah.
at the morgue, she is in the room with the body. Mark comes in and says, like, all right, so I'm here to let you know that Canada is not going to put the death penalty on June, and they
Mhm.
also can't punish her because the crime was not on Canadian soil.
Yeah.
And the good news, though, Serena, you can start a new life in Toronto. And Serena's like, what the fuck? Like, are
Yeah.
you serious?
I do not blame her for that response because I thought the same thing. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It
Also,
was a lot.
well, I just feel like in that sense of dialect, he was saying, you can start a new life in Toronto with me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I
like
got the vibe. I got the vibe.
until when you said that, say that now, yeah, I see it. Before, I didn't think that, but also I think maybe I was just also in the mindset of the fact that, like, I don't know, I'm just thinking of some weird scenario. I know Canada's massive, but like
Mhm.
some weird scenario that June and Serena could be neighbors
Oh,
and
God.
nobody would like
Perish
nobody
the
would
thought.
care, nobody would know, but that would be a turf war. And it's and she brings it up. She says like that she's like, what this is what she did to Fred. What do you think she can do to me? Like, I can't
Yeah.
be here. And she's right.
No, she's right,
'Cause
because
June is not gonna stop going after Serena just because Fred's dead.
absolutely, and Fred, by the way, I was not actually expecting to see him dismantled the way that he was. The
Yeah.
chunk of skin, you could see his exposed ribs.
I was actually
Brutal.
I was gonna bring that up too, because how long has it been since he had dead? Like, was it the same
A
day?
day.
Was it a week?
I think it was like a day.
Yeah, because how badly did these girls like destroy him?
I mean,
Because I mean, what
it,
we saw on the wall, he still looked relatively fully clothed, but did they like completely concave his torso?
they, mind you, this is maybe like 15, 20 women to one.
True.
June took an actual bite out of him. These
Yeah.
women were beating him, hitting
Yeah.
him, God knows what. But like his leg is completely smashed. Like I said, we see exposed rib because a chunk of skin has been removed. His I don't know if his jaw was broken
It looked
or
like that, yeah.
I mean, he just looked terrible, and I'm like, okay. I mean, to kind of discredit June, she didn't do all that herself. Obviously, she had help. So for Serena to say like, "Oh, well, it's June that did this," no, June orchestrated it, yes, but
Mhm.
there were like 20 other women who were involved. So calm down.
Yeah.
but but I mean, the fact that June has instilled fear into Serena,
Yeah.
and fear is a very powerful I won't say sensation, but fear
It's a
you
motivator.
it's a motivator. Exactly.
Yeah.
How else do dictators rise to power? It's
Mhm.
through fear.
How did Gilead
And
rise to power?
bingo, exactly. And the funny thing with that is that even though Fred was a founding father, a lot of it was also because of Serena, at least according
Mhm.
to this show.
Yeah.
And so to kind of conclude this portion of episode 1 and actually just conclude episode 1, Serena's leaving the morgue and there's like a small group of vigil supporters
Yeah.
there.
That was weird.
I was not expecting that.
No, yeah, I was not. I was surprised, and my first thought, but this also might just be being snarky, was like, if you guys are like this, why are you in Canada? Just go to Gilead. Like, why are you here? It was
Mhm.
unless they're like, I don't know, people who are sympathizers, like where were the diplomats from season 1? Mexico?
Mexico.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like she like even after June told her all the horrors and terrible things that was happening to handmaids, she's still just like,
It's like, yeah, but
"Uh."
we haven't had a healthy born child in 6 years, so
Yeah, so it's like yeah, like that's the kind of vibe I got from it, but part of me
yeah,
was
it's
like,
like,
why
Imma
are you
support
here
you.
then?
It's like, Imma support you, but Imma do it from afar.
Yeah.
But there was something that awoke Serena from
Mhm.
that state of mind of having just seen her deceased husband, because these supporters, I say supporters, but probably sympathizers is the right word,
Mhm.
they're using terminology that is used in Gilead of,
Yeah,
under his eye and praise be and, things of that nature. And she's
yeah.
walking through this little crowd. And then Serena stops and tells Mark before getting in the car that she wants to bury Fred in the nation that he founded. And
Mhm.
Mark's all like, kind of can't do that. And she's like, yes, you can. And he goes, all right. So it furthers my point that like I think he's just like he's really infatuated with
Whipped?
her. I was actually going to say that, but I chose to say infatuated with her. And
Yeah.
and it's so crazy because the fact that she is a force to be reckoned with.
Mhm.
She helped build Gilead in the background.
Yeah.
But let's not forget Gilead suppresses women and she can't make those shots or can't call those shots in Gilead, but she
Yeah.
can do it in Canada and have people bend to her will. That's a scary idea.
Yeah, like, that's a terrifying thought that it basically could be a Gilead's second coming within Canada,
Mhm.
and or a faction, and that is terrifying, and
Yeah.
I could see her going that route because, she did try to change the laws of women can't read and stuff like that. She did try to change that, and she got her finger cut off for it, and that
Mhm.
was when Fred was alive. So,
Mhm.
I don't know what she's expecting going back to Gilead, expecting to have power just because she is a Waterford widow. Like,
But that
what?
name commands respect, apparently. But does
But
it
it
command
does.
respect for a woman? Yeah.
It didn't seem to, especially like going into episode 2. Like, it definitely.
Well, no, because she's a woman, but also because Fred was perceived as a traitor to
Yeah.
his country. So there's that kind of gray area, but
Mhm.
otherwise, I think it would ring true that the Waterford name had some sort of like respected manner toward it. But
Yeah. More like how
that
they did in season 1.
right, exactly. So that pretty much concludes episode 1 for season 5. And we're just going to keep on moving right along
Mhm.
to episode 2, which is entitled Ballet. Personally, for me, much better episode than episode
Yeah.
1. What did you think?
1,000% yes. I liked it a lot better. I feel like, and I told you this off screen too. I feel like if they only released episode 1, it would have been a little lackluster as a premiere.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I think it benefited by releasing 2 at the same time
Mm-hmm.
because 2 gave us those high stakes that we were feeling back in the finale of last season,
Yeah.
and for things that do happen, and I'm sure we're going to get into it, but yeah,
Exactly.
I feel like it was definitely because for episode 1 was a little slower. It was, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a lot more introspective and symbolic, and not as much, I guess, drama.
Yeah, that's a good
um,
way of putting it. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
like there wasn't a whole lot going on,
Mm-hmm.
and because most of the stuff that we just talked about with Serena, that took what, maybe 15 minutes total out of the episode? Like, it wasn't
Something
long at
like that.
all.
No,
Yeah,
it
like,
really
the
wasn't.
actual, like, plot development parts of the episode were not as much as the symbolic parts. So, I get
Yeah,
it, but I really liked, episode 2, and that episode 2 is what made me excited for the rest of the season.
absolutely. And unlike how we started in episode 1, now we're kicking it off back in Gilead.
Mhm.
Yikes. So Serena, having previously said that she wanted to bury Fred in the nation that he founded, she is traveling back to Gilead with Mark Twello and the understanding that she's coming back with him to Canada. She is not staying in Gilead. And they're met outside of the airplane by Commanders Lawrence, who was also June's
Mhm.
former commander, and Commander Nick Blaine, who is June's baby daddy
Mhm.
for Nicole. the
Yeah.
exchange, the exchange between these individuals, holy shit.
Yeah.
I mean, whoa.
There's a lot of history there, and it was very thick intensity in the air. Like, it
Oh
was.
yeah.
I think even there is a little shot of Mark being like making a little faces like,
Uh-huh. Yeah. This is
it's just.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, because Serena is aware that, I mean, she orchestrated it. She's aware that Nick is Nicole's father, and
Mhm.
she's aware of everything that he's done, and
Mhm.
she's aware that, like, her and, June, I mean, and Nick had, um, a relationship of some sort,
Right.
and she's aware of that. So she's like,
Mhm.
"You're a commander. You are the person here now." Like, and now that she's back in Gilead, she is a woman, and
Mhm.
they do treat differently. So these are the people that she's going to have to, I guess, be,
To answer to,
uh,
really.
yeah, who she has to answer to, and she knows these people, and
Mhm.
also, I don't think she's dumb enough to put aside the fact that June escaped while with Commander Lawrence.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Like,
she knows.
she's not dumb, she
She
knows.
knows, she just can't prove it,
Yeah,
and
like, that's why they tested him by with the
mhm.
handmaid ritual, like, it's
Oh, yeah, for
she
sure.
yeah, so the fact that these are the people that are welcoming her,
Mhm.
she did not seem happy about that.
No, but you know what? I have to give it to Bradley. Oh God, his last name escaped me, but he plays Commander Lawrence.
Mhm.
I love his performance in this
I
whole
love
show.
him. Yeah.
He's fantastic, and just saying, "Oh, look at all of us getting along,"
Yeah,
like
he's fun
political
and
people.
complex too. I
Yeah,
love him.
he's
It's
great. He's
it's
great.
very interesting, and,
Yeah.
like, I thought I was also really watching Mark throughout that whole
Mhm.
episode because I really wanted to see somebody, especially a man, reacting to what he's seeing in Gilead,
Yep, for sure.
and,
And
like
he's out of his comfort zone.
yeah,
It's kinda
but,
like, are
like
they gonna let him go?
yeah, like,
Eh,
his he does have a couple of fumbles and stuff like
yeah.
that, he does seem very uncomfortable,
Oh, yeah.
but, like, what do you think his mindset is? Like, for one, he's a liaison, like, why is he the one to go? Like, I'm pretty sure there are other people that coulda gone with Serena.
Because he has close ties to Serena, and he probably feels the need to protect her, and
Bleh.
because he's had the most contact with her, I guess, and that's why I'm saying I'm concerned for his well-being, because if he gets involved with her in any kind of fashion, is
Yeah.
it gonna be, "Okay, we're gonna start a life together in Canada," or is she gonna bring him back into the fold, but into Gilead? It's very concerning. Very,
Yeah,
very concerning.
I could maybe see her trying, but I
Yeah,
maybe I'm giving him too much credit, I don't know, because we don't know him very well yet,
yeah,
but I don't see him getting into that because he seemed very uncomfortable. But we don't know him,
we
so who
don't.
knows? And he might see how men are treated there and
Mhm.
may think it's okay, so who knows? But
Well, what we do know is that Serena is very displeased by the commander's arrangements for Fred's funeral. She's
mhm,
thinking this kind of big, grandiose because he was a founding father of the nation, and
yeah,
they're like in this really unpopular church, and again, this exchange between her and the commanders with Mark Twello present continues, and Mark excuses himself, and she is challenging the commanders about their hand, if they had a hand in helping June with
yeah.
Fred's murder. And the camera shoots to Nick, and he kind of like shifts uncomfortably, and it's like, well, there's your tell, dummy. um
Yeah, come on, Nick, you're better than this.
right, but
You're a guy.
overall,
Come
exactly,
on.
exactly, but overall, what Serena is asking for is for Commander Lawrence to go before the other commanders to basically improve the funeral arrangements, because
Yeah.
that's what Serena thinks Fred deserves.
Yeah, because she feels like it's too lackluster as it is.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And this, to keep going, when we're at the wake for Fred, and this is hosted by the Putnams, who are close friends of the Waterfords. Sidebar, I just learned recently that the actress who plays Mrs. Putnam is Robert Carradine's daughter. And I'm like, now, did you watch Lizzie McGuire growing up?
I did, but I am terrible with actor names, so you gotta give me,
Okay.
like, a character.
Oh, I'm going to tell you. Lizzie's father.
Oh,
That
what?
is Mrs. Putnam's real life father. Blew my mind. I'm like, that is wild. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
that's a side note I gotta ponder later.
we'll talk about it later. But anyway, at the Putnams, Mark Twello is like immediately set aside. Like, he cannot enter the room where everyone is like socializing and things like that, because Commander Putnam's like, "Come here,
Mhm.
Mark. Psh, go sit down over there, and here's some food."
You're in timeout.
Basically,
Yeah. It was very
basically.
undermining, actually, like, I feel like I feel he felt that because he
Oh yeah.
wasn't just sitting down, he was kind of, like, a little concaved a little like,
But think
"Okay."
about the position that he was in, where he was seated. It was right next to the doors where the other commanders were
Mhm.
meeting. And it's kind of like you're there, but you're not. So to me, now talking about it out loud, it's like, is that foreshadowing anything?
I personally I saw it as more of a sign of the social status. I feel like this
Okay.
would more hammer it home to Mark. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, they're not gonna treat me they're gonna treat me like a lower citizen because to them I am.
Right. He's an
And
outsider.
yeah, so
Mhm.
that's what I thought. It was more just hammering home that social status
I can get that. Yeah, for
levels.
sure.
But I mean, hey, maybe it is like showing that this is where the men go. Don't you wish you had a key in kind of thing? Like I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, and
Who
then
understands the
Mark's
men in Gilead?
who understands men in general? Uh, Mark's poor attempt in using Gilead terminology too was very
Cringy?
irksome. Yeah. Yeah. When
Yeah.
he meets Aunt Lydia when she's bringing in the handmaids, and I'm not gonna jump too much into that right now, but, him again trying to use the terminology, and apparently it didn't seem like it was the correct phrasing upon greetings. I'm not sure, but it's like, "Bruh, just go
It
sit
was
back down in your
stilted.
little
It
chair."
was very, like, it was it was awkward 'cause
Very.
there are other ways to ask the aunt's name. You didn't have to be like,
Ah, so awkward.
"Blessed day, aunt." Cricket,
Yeah.
crickets, like, it's
Cricket
just
crickets.
there are other ways,
Yeah.
man, and I think everyone in the room felt it, and you can see it from Lydia's face. She's like, "What is this dude
She's like,
doing
"Who's
here?"
this man? Like,
Yeah.
why?
"Why are
Why
you
is he
talking to
talking to
me?"
me?" Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking and probably flipping it perspective, Commander's wondering why a woman is coming to talk to them. Serena is told by Commander Lawrence that the commanders are not gonna go for any changes, and she's like,
Mhm.
"You didn't ask them." And so she does what she's always done. She takes matters
Mhm.
into her own hands. She approaches the commanders to plead her case about one, giving Fred a proper funeral, but to also broadcast it.
Which I actually when they were talking about it, that is a really smart move for them
Oh,
to
absolutely.
like because people like the diplomats from Mexico
Mhm.
and these random the randos, let's just call them the randos from, Canada who are supporting, Serena after
Oh
Fred's
god.
death,
Yeah.
like, outside the morgue. Like, people like that are going to see this huge publicized event and be like, "Oh, well," like, exactly what Serena was saying and what
Mhm.
Nick said too, like, that it shows sympathy and
Yep.
it shows a bunch of lies of what Gilead is and makes it sound better. So, like, I wouldn't be surprised if from this, trade improves, communication improves, and I wouldn't be surprised if they got more help.
Or
And
expanding their borders.
exactly, like, that's what I mean, like, by more help, like, I wouldn't
Ugh.
be it's
Ugh.
a big yikes on bikes, but
Yep.
yeah,
But
it's a
but
smart
also
move for Gilead, but it's a,
yeah. And it was
uh
smart for the commanders, Lawrence and Commander Nick,
mhm,
to throw their support behind Serena as well. And it's kind of like, well, we're going to throw her off the scent of us having any involvement with Fred's murder or, you know,
yeah,
aiding June in any kind of fashion because obviously they have. And you're right. By broadcasting the
mhm,
funeral, it the world may perceive Gilead to be a sympathetic and merciful nation, even though everyone in Gilead thinks that Fred was a traitor. It's like, but we're merciful people. Okay. Okay. Uh
okay.
Serena then dons a what I like to call a black wedding dress because
It
it had a
was.
train, she had the
Yeah, the
veil
mermaid
thing.
silhouette, it was the veil, yeah,
Oh,
she
goodness. Yeah, and she's getting her 15 minutes of fame.
mhm,
Being televised, walking behind Fred's casket, which crazy enough aired just almost a week after the Queen's passing, and we're seeing a lot of
yeah,
these processions of her, uh, you know, people following either the casket on the I don't know what it's called. I won't call it a wagon, but that's not the right term. Please don't come at me, people. But
the old
it's
hearse.
yeah. Um, but it's kind of just very curious that all this is happening at the same time. The stopping point where Serena is approached by young women. They're wearing purple, I believe. And one young woman in general, or in particular, is presenting her with white roses. How astounded were you when you saw that that was Hannah?
When I saw the girls walking up, I was like, "Oh, if Hannah's in there, I'm gonna lose my mind."
Yep.
And then the second that, like, you saw a profile of her, and I'm like,
Yep.
"No." I kinda saw I hate to admit I saw it coming, but
Yeah.
I'm not mad about it. Like, it was
Yeah.
a smart move for Serena, um, but it's also a
Vengeful.
declaration of war.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
and not even between nations, it's a war between women. And
Uh-huh.
it's like they are so Serena and June are so far separated from their nations.
Mhm.
Like, June doesn't act, caring or on behalf of the United States or
Yeah.
Canada. She doesn't care.
Yeah.
She's on her own agenda, the nation
Mhm.
of June, and same thing with Serena. Serena she's using Gilead
Mhm.
as backing, but she
Yep.
doesn't care. And yeah, she's getting her 15 minutes of fame, but again, this kind of harpens back to me listening to the audiobook again. That's what she used to do. She was on TV. She was a broadcaster. That's what well, not broadcaster, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
She was
She
a
had a
mo
presence.
yeah, a motivational speaker for,
Mhm.
um, what became Gilead.
Right.
We knew this. And so I feel like and even in, the show universe, she gave speeches and talks for her books and,
Mhm.
uh, at colleges and such. So
Right.
I feel like this is her kinda using her element, and she knows
Oh,
that
yeah.
this is her element to get back at everybody, and
And what a way to get back at June, because
Mhm.
obviously Serena has used Hannah as a weapon before in order
Yeah.
to keep June in her place. And it's like in Serena's mind, all right, June, you took my husband from me, but now I have your daughter. So who really has the upper hand in this manner? And the
Yeah,
fact
because
that she kisses Hannah on the forehead, and we turn and see Hannah's beautiful little face, and it's on every jumbo screen in downtown Toronto. And
Mhm.
who else is there to witness this in Toronto but none other than Hannah's parents?
And I also love the beautiful imagery of, like, kind of a side note, but how Serena's dressing in, like, a extravagant like you said, a black wedding gown, and
Mhm.
June is wearing a little bit shorter, more casual white dress,
Yes,
and the color symbolism.
I
Oh, and
know.
just, like and them getting ready at the same time, and,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah, the
I
juxtaposition of everything was, like,
yeah, and, like,
extremely well done.
Serena adjusting the veil and June, touching her red tag, and
Mhm.
it just
Yeah,
chef's kiss. Um, I
exactly.
but I don't know, I was so because in the past, it was very when all Serena seemed and actually did care about was Nicole.
Right,
There's very much like your baby is safe as long as my baby is safe. Hannah's safe as long as Nicole is safe. But now that
right.
she's pregnant with her own baby, she doesn't seem to care at all about Nicole.
Which poses the question of how dangerous is Serena at this point, especially if she's gonna use
Mhm.
Hannah as a tool in her revenge on June.
Especially since we saw last season that we saw actually but before last season, right?
Mhm,
That Hannah doesn't remember June. And for one, that's devastating. But
mhm,
two, like, that's just putty for Serena to mold as she wants.
yep,
And I'm very concerned for Hannah. And
mhm.
I'm very interested in what's going to happen because aside from going back into Gilead, I'm not too sure what June can do from Canada.
Not a whole heck of a lot, so let's go ahead and talk about June. I'm sure we're going
Mhm.
to reference Serena again. But June is attempting to to turn over a new leaf, quite literally, with gardening. Yes, I wrote that myself. Kind of proud of it. Not going to lie. But she clearly still suffers from severe PTSD and compound trauma because when
Mhm.
it's game night with Moira, Luke, and Rita, we've got Monopoly, we've got Operation. That one actually concerned me because of Fred. It's like, oh, she just dismembered like one person. Or do we really want to play Operation? But
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that one.
but appropriately, the game that
Mhm.
triggered her was none other than Scrabble.
Mhm.
Now, I wanted to ask you, Amber, the fact that she picked up the letter J, do you think that was perhaps done on purpose?
I think so.
Mhm.
Um, and whether it's, her name or justice or whatever, there are a lot of J words that it could be.
That's
Um,
true.
but I think it was on purpose, but also I might have to I know I just rewatched the show from the beginning, but didn't she also play with a J token in when they were originally playing in season 1? Because it might
I
have just
don't
been symbolism
remember.
for that, but I don't remember what letter she specifically was, like, playing with, but I remember the visual of it.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I genuinely do not remember, but I just thought with her picking up the letter J, it either representing
yeah.
June or just justice, or maybe there was actually no symbolism at all behind it. It's just a random letter she picked up. Uh, Still, the main factor
Yeah.
behind all this is that she is triggered because of Scrabble, because of the time that she's played with Fred and,
Mhm.
you know, got close to him, quote unquote, and used him and what have you. But she will leave to go to the kitchen to talk to Rita, and she kind of starts like really pushing Rita's buttons
Yeah, she
after
wants to start a
having
fight.
basically, and she's like, Emily went back to Gilead, like, you know, she said she had things to do, and then she like it's almost like, and Elizabeth Moss is a fabulous actress, don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, but you literally see the switch across her
Yeah.
face, and she turns to Rita and says, you know that Serena slapped you, and Rita's like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk about this. But June
Mhm.
just keeps on going. And then Moira has to step in. And they both basically have to tell June to shut the fuck up. And
Yeah.
then June snaps out of it. And it's like fracture.
Yeah, and honestly, I actually like the term that you use, like, it was like a switch going changing it because it's true, and I
Mhm.
wouldn't be surprised if, June is developing some sort of, identity disorder
I wouldn't be
because
surprised. Yeah,
she I'm just looking at the fact that she was triggered
absolutely.
and then immediately starts trying to fight.
Mhm.
And that is like what I mentioned earlier in season 1, with episode 1
Right.
about how she gets in those modes of this is the one that takes the trauma. This is the side of me that takes the trauma and fights and tooth and claw and biting and scratching and kicking and screaming.
Mhm.
This is that side of me because she was triggered.
Mhm.
And she immediately tries to fight Rita because Rita was there. Rita was somebody that she had around her during that trauma. And I'm not surprised that she went after Rita. Like, she saw an
Yeah.
opening, went after it, and they
Yeah.
were in the kitchen, like most of their other interactions back in Gilead,
Yeah.
and bringing up, trying to push her buttons, like you said. She was trying to
Right.
start a fight. And then, and it wasn't until like that, there was that break that because Rita wouldn't have reacted that way. And no one reacted like Moira did back in Gilead.
Right.
So I think that was like, pouring a bucket of ice water over her and made her,
Right.
"Oh, you're right." I like it completely
Yeah.
got out of that to the other side of her that's trying to heal and does feel guilt and trying to turn over the new leaf. That is, I would not be surprised if some sort of fractured identity is
Mhm.
developing here.
So I will slightly disagree about the June wanting to start a fight. I don't know if it was like an actual fight she was looking for, or she just wants someone to feel what she's feeling. As they say, misery loves company, right?
Yes.
And wanting, it's almost like she wants to go back to that dark June, that, sort of let's up in arms kind of
Yeah.
June. Let's be mad and let's do something about it.
You're
It's
right.
like
I
she's
think I'll
searching for
yeah.
someone to kind of support maybe that notion of, we need to go finish Serena off. Like, I need support from you
Yeah.
because
You're
you
right. I think
experienced the same thing.
I think yeah, okay, I think you're right, and that's kinda making me wanna reevaluate how I worded it.
No, no,
I
no
don't think she
worries.
was trying to like, I don't think she wants to start I don't think she was intending to start a fight with Rita. I think she was
You want to
starting
be
trying to
starting something. Got
I
to
think she
get.
I think she wanted to start a fight, which and I don't think she was trying to instigate that with Rita. I think she was trying to
Yeah,
instigate that
the
together
the
with
the
Rita. Like,
idea. Yeah,
let's like she was trying to because she was like you said, she was targeting it at Serena. Like, hey, do you remember what Serena did to you? Do you remember that she
mm-hmm,
slapped you? Do you remember this
mm-hmm,
situation with Serena? Like, trying
mm-hmm.
to get Rita
Mad.
mad. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
just like, and I wonder if a part of that, like, what was that? If we are going with the like the fractured state of mind between her, the two sides of her, like before and after talking to Sylvia,
Mm-hmm.
would like what did she expect? Was she wanting Rita to fight with her? Was she want Rita to go back and do the same thing that Emily did? Like, that's what I'm wondering,
Right.
and
Right. I
it's
think June
fascinating.
is probably looking for an excuse
Oh, yeah.
to do the thing.
Or permission.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
I think definitely she's just torn about
Yeah.
everything. And by having that support, who's someone who directly was impacted by the same woman, it's like, well, we need to do something about it. But Rita's like, no, 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 no. I ain't having it.
Mm.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Um, so after all of this, June is on a date with Luke. Again, trying to turn over that new leaf, trying to kind of
Yeah.
do a normal thing as couples would do, and they go see a ballet. It's I think it's supposed to be derived from a ballet called Sargasso, but it looks like a beautiful ballet. The
Yeah,
music
it's
was
beautiful.
very, very enjoyable. But I initially thought like kind of Swan Lake like, because obviously June's wearing the white,
Yeah.
Serena's wearing the black, and there
Mhm.
is the battle between the two different swans, or the queens, if you will.
Yeah. The
And
Flunkies.
and the fact that that's what I initially thought was, but again, the juxtaposition of the shots of June enjoying the ballet, she's got a tear, and then you see Serena tearing up for other reasons, but really she's got like this little smirk on her face the entire time that she's walking down the road
Yeah.
to in this procession. And of course, at the very end, when we do see Hannah on the jumbo screens and June's looking up and she's pissed, here's another endless long stare, but this one justifiably so,
Mhm.
because she's looking up pissed at Serena,
Mm.
and Serena's looking down, and you
Yeah.
see that smirk at the end, and she's like, I have the upper hand here,
I would
by her
not be
fucking
surprised
hand.
at how much Serena went into orchestrating it. Because I mean, if she got Hannah to come back to for the funeral, because we knew that her family moved.
Yeah,
So, like, if she did that, I'm pretty sure she did the same thing. She told the camera guy, like, "Hey, give me this angle." Like, I would not be surprised. This is her
yeah,
element, mind you.
yeah.
I'm not surprised, and she
Insane.
had that evil little smirk. I just wanted to punch her in the face, and I'm sure June did too. Much worse as
I think
well,
everyone
but
did.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yvonne, and I cannot pronounce her last name. I'm gonna butcher it, but the actress who
mm,
plays Serena Waterford, phenomenal. Phenomenal in her role.
amazing.
Absolutely.
Because she does play the complexity of her so well. Like
She
you were
does.
saying before, you want to feel bad for her sometimes, but then other times she does something absolutely horrible, and you're like, oh, wait, why was
It's
I
like, there
rooting for
she
you a
is.
second ago? Like,
Yeah.
she makes you question that. And I'm not surprised if kind of the viewer's reaction of that in their universe would be
Mhm.
Mark. Because
Oh.
Mark does, he sees her being emotional and upset and things like that. He sees that
Mhm.
responsiveness from her. And then he's also starting to get little glimpses of that, like the cracks in her facade, I guess.
Yeah.
To like, I think he is kind of, I think maybe, who knows, maybe he's going to be more of like our perspective. Like he's going to see those two different sides of Serena. Whether he
Yeah.
likes them or not, I don't know. But
Yeah.
I think he does. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um
I still worry for him just because obviously he's in Gilead. Worry for his safety, especially
yeah.
when we see him out in the snow and he's meeting Nick, and you're like, okay, what's going to happen now? But Mark's doing what Mark does, and that's trying to get someone to cooperate. And but in this case, it sounds like he still wants Nick to serve as a commander, still be an eye, but to report to the American government with something that could be used to bring
Mhm.
down Gilead. And I think you may see like conflicting feelings across Nick because of everything he's already done, and now there's more that's being asked of him. So
Yeah.
Nick doesn't commit, but he also doesn't turn it away. He's just kind of like, yeah, I'll remember
Yeah.
that.
And honestly, I'm a little bit, this sounds like kind of odd, but you even said before, like with Nick and his tell, like
Hmm.
when Serena was accusing them of helping June,
Hmm.
I I'm a little bit surprised because I did just rewatch the entire show.
Yeah.
In season 1, Nick did really well at playing the eye and being unresponsive and unemotional and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He knew, like, hey, time and place.
Yeah.
Like he knew, and he was
Yeah.
very good at it. So the fact that he was like, when Serena was like, "Did you guys help June? I know you did." Blah
Hmm.
blah, blah. He was just like,
He's
"Oh,
like, oh,
yeah."
who me?
Like
Like,
that's why I was like, "Dude, you're better than this." And so
yeah.
when the I think seeing that he was conflicted in that Mark, who doesn't even know the guy, the fact that he could see it, I'm kind of confused because I'm like, did you get like sorry Nick, but when you became a commander, did you get sloppy? What's happening here? And
Hmm.
that's like the worst possible thing that you could do in this situation now.
Nick's situation obviously is very different because of the fact that he
Mhm,
does have feelings for June, and his
mhm.
daughter is in Canada.
Yep.
So for him to perhaps slip up wouldn't be completely shocking, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And the fact that Mark uses that to his own advantage to say to
Mhm.
Nick, well, there's a way that you can maybe be with your daughter instead of having to ask. You'll actually just know, but this is what we need from you.
Yeah,
And playing on someone's emotions like that is very risky.
it
Very, very
is.
risky. But we'll just have to see what happens with Nick because I still feel like Nick wants the power. I don't know if he completely believes in Gilead, but I think he wants to have it all. I don't think he
Oh,
wants to
yeah.
see the world burn necessarily, but I think he wants
Mhm.
it all.
No, I agree. But he's always kind of been like that too. When we found out that well, for when he got a wife the first time,
Mhm.
and then when then he started getting a promotion and he started getting more known, we didn't really, for a long time, we didn't really know if he's really a good guy or not, and we still don't.
Well, and
And
apparently he has a past, whatever that may mean.
yeah, which I was gearing, like, they sounded like they were gearing up to tell us that,
Right.
and then they didn't.
Well,
So
But
They're probably safe.
Serena did say in the previous season that he fought in the Crusades.
Yeah,
So maybe he does to some degree believe in Gilead.
true.
But he also
Or followed because, I mean,
that's all he had. Maybe.
and also you can't also ignore the fact of following because you kind of feel forced.
That too.
And like, I mean, not to turn everything to Harry Potter, but Draco was turned, like, he became a Death Eater and
Yeah.
things like that. And he did a lot of, you know, not great things. And granted, he was not a great kid, but
No.
he did things too because he,
It was
you know,
expected.
he's like, I have to, like, to Dumbledore, I have to kill you or he's going to kill me and my
Right.
family. So
Right.
it's like we don't know. We just simply don't know
Right.
about Nick now. And
Absolutely.
yeah, we don't know about his past. We don't know anything about him really.
Hardly.
Like nothing. We know from and even when June says that back in season 1, he's like, I'm from here, I'm this old, I was born there. That's it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's
He's
all
pretty
we know
closed
now
off.
too.
Yeah.
We're
He's pretty
not.
closed off.
Yeah, and so I wouldn't be. I think that they're just saving that
For
because
sure.
honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if. Okay, I know that they probably more than definitely have plans for him, and they know where his story is going to go. They know what they want to do with him,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't be surprised if they're holding us on that, not knowing anything about him,
Yeah.
for us to have these conversations, to be
Oh,
like,
for
do
sure.
we like him or do we don't? Because
Right.
even in the past, like seasons 3 and 4, we're like, oh, he's a commander now. Is he a bad guy now? You know, like we're
Right.
just he's always on Gilead's side. That's a bad guy side, guys. Like
Yeah. But
yeah.
I think this show does a really great job of creating these complex characters.
Mhm.
Obviously with Serena, now Nick, but even with like Commander Lawrence, you know, he's also a founding father of Gilead, if you will.
Yeah.
He pretty much strategized their whole economic system, but he also didn't participate in the rituals.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, you know, how committed are you really? But
Mhm.
I love seeing the complexity of these characters, which brings me to our last topic to wrap up episode 2. And we're going to talk about the Handmaids and Aunt
Yes.
Lydia. This was probably the biggest what the F moment for me. I think it was for you because you watched it the episode before I did.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
I
Whoa.
Yes, off screen, I messaged you freaking out about it, like, "Hey, I'm not gonna spoil it, but oh my."
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It was
So that's so crazy. So we see Esther. She's the former teenage commander's wife from season 4 who was aiding the escaped handmaids, and because of her hand in helping aid aiding fugitives, she's now preparing to be posted as a handmaid. So she's been at the Red Center. Aunt Lydia, who's been reinstated, has more or less appointed Janine, poor Janine, to kind of like
yeah.
oversee Esther. And the fact that Aunt Lydia made this choice, and we've talked about this, but we're going to talk about it
Mhm.
here, of course. Do you think that Aunt Lydia is grooming Janine to maybe becoming an aunt one day?
1000%. Um, before the season came out, you had presented me this theory, and I was like, "I can definitely see it."
Mhm.
And then seeing this episode, whoa, I was just hit with it. I'm like, "Well, Brittany was right." Like, it was just
I mean, we don't know. We don't know. It's just a
no, I
theory
know,
I've
yeah. It's
had.
nothing's gonna be confirmed yet,
Right.
but I was just, um you can definitely see it because she
Mhm.
had that talk with her beforehand, like, "Hey, we're going to the Putnams. This is why this is important. This is why it's important that you deal with Esther."
Mhm.
Which is just like it's very complimentary of how Lydia probably told herself in the mirror every morning about June. Like, this is
Yeah. It's
this
her
is
fault.
important, Lydia.
Everything's her fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Janine is basically telling Esther, who says, she doesn't want to be posted, rightfully so. I don't blame
Mhm.
you, girl. Okay, everything she's already gone through and
Oh, yeah.
is going to go through. Oh. But Janine
Mhm.
is telling Esther, you be good, you follow the rules, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna be safe. So when they arrive to the Putnams, and let's keep in mind, obviously, that there's a long history with the Putnams and Janine and Aunt Lydia.
Mhm.
Lots has happened inside that
Yeah, I
household.
was really surprised the amount of granted, she didn't give her full, um she didn't give Janine, like, full freedom with the Putnams, but I'm
Right.
surprised with the amount of, leeway she did
Mhm.
give. I was a little
Yes.
surprised with that because we knew that baby Angela was gonna be there.
Yes.
She's
And
watching now?
she's adorable, and she has Janine's red hair,
Yeah.
and she's adorable, of course, and it's very it's very curious to see even just how Janine conducted herself because of that struggle with the Putnams in the past, right? But Janine behaves herself, and she tells Mrs. Putnam, "You have a beautiful daughter," to which Mrs. Putnam replies with, "I thank God every day for her." And Janine's like, "Oh, okay, I'm whatever." But the very sweet gesture of, "And I also thank those who brought her to me," or, brought her into the world, basically. So it's the extended olive branch because of the troubled history. I just thought that was a really sweet moment because Janine has just gone through so much, that poor thing.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
definitely a turn from how Mrs. Putnam has treated Janine in the past.
Yes.
Like, I think definitely after saving Angela back in the when she was
Twice.
sick. Yeah, twice. Um,
Yeah.
kinda twice. One
Well,
was
kind of twice. She kidnapped Angela.
yeah, so, like, maybe we should thank June for the first one.
Yeah, we'll go with that
Um,
one.
let's thank June for the first one.
Yeah.
And, not but, like, she did save her, and I think that definitely changed how she saw her
Yes.
because
How important she is to Angela.
yeah, and, like, all of the differences and how that it made all the difference is what I mean, and so
Mhm.
that's definitely important to what this whole interaction happening. I think
Yeah.
that it was very important, and I think that that actually might push Janine more into being an aunt in the future because
Perhaps.
seeing like, hey, I did something good, and
Mhm.
if I'm working with and not against Aunt
Mhm.
Lydia, I can get these benefits,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I think that that's just something that pushed her forward again.
Mhm. For sure. Well, one thing that did happen, for sure, whether it was by Janine's tutelage or not, but Mrs. Pitnam, wow, sorry, Mrs. Putnam agrees to have Esther be her new handmaid
Yeah.
with some reluctancy. But Aunt Lydia goes to introduce Esther to Commander Putnam as he's in his study with the other commanders, and he sends them all away, including Aunt Lydia, who you could tell she wants to protest, like, this is not appropriate, like, this is not how we
Yeah.
do things. But Commander Putnam supposedly just wants to talk or get to know Esther. This
Gross.
scene was so cringy.
Mhm. And
Oh,
genuinely, he has because without Fred, he has to be on some kind of power trip because
I think he got promoted.
yeah, he definitely got promoted
Yeah,
because
he
I
got
mean,
promoted.
the guy got in so much trouble because of what happened with Janine.
Mhm.
And so it's like you're getting so yeah, he probably got promoted. He definitely got promoted because they're getting
He did.
another handmaid.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he definitely got promoted, but it's just like, dude, did you not learn your lesson? And it's just It was so, so cringy, and then also it gives us a little bit of a perspective of how he might have treated Janine.
1000%. And I think what really made it cringy more so was because now that he's elevated himself in office,
Mhm.
he probably thinks, "Oh, Fred did things with his handmaid and got away with it. I probably
Yeah.
can go ahead and do the same." And by doing so, he gets a chocolate ball to feed to Esther, and he's all, woo, and it's just, I'm like, dude, she's not a baby,
It was
but
just gross.
it was
I hated
gross.
it.
It was so uncomfortable to watch. And let me just say, McKenna Grace, who plays
Mhm.
Esther, as a young, she's a teenager, if I'm not mistaken. She's a young woman.
Yeah.
Holy shit, can she act her ass off?
Amazing.
You could see the disturbance all over her body.
Yeah, like, you could see everything from the how she was holding herself and the micro expressions in her face, and
Mhm.
it wasn't even just the uncomfortable and the unease, it was also just the anger and the despair and the everything really. Like,
Yeah,
she's also probably reliving trauma because think about how, like, all of the other men had treated her before. Like, this is just a heightened, more targeted event.
absolutely. And she already has her own trauma because of what
Mhm.
she experienced already with the
Yeah.
previous commander and what have you. And, she was being told by Janine, you follow the rules, you behave, you're going to be fine. Well, that probably is not going to ring true when it comes to Putnam because Putnam is a sick, twisted bastard.
Yeah.
So it definitely is foreshadowing the abuse that she would be not the word ensue, but the abuse that would be bestowed upon her
Mhm.
when she becomes their full-time handmaid. But going to the Red Center after all of this is where shit gets real, right?
Yeah.
What a scene. If they did all this in one take, just the dialogue between
The
Esther and Janine,
conversation. Again, script writers, thank you.
so
Wow.
good. If this isn't a reason to get into The Handmaid's Tale, and let me just say, The Handmaid's Tale is a rough watch, okay? It
It is.
definitely tough subject matter, but the acting, the dialogue, all of it is just incredible. The conversation that Esther has with Janine at the Red Center, where Esther's like, "Oh, I stole these chocolates from the Putnams," and here she's sharing it with Janine, and they're
Mhm.
conversing about being pregnant. Janine's like, "Oh, it's like the best feeling in the world. It's this kind of love that you just can't experience anywhere else,"
Yeah.
and blah blah blah. Just making it sound really great or what have you. And Esther's just kind of like, "Yeah, okay, like sure, why not? Whatever you say."
Mhm.
But what Esther says to Janine to really bring it home when she tells Janine, "When I first met you, I didn't like you." And she's like, "And I still don't." Like, what did you think about that? And just kind of walk us through that and what happens next.
I was gutted, mainly because I was just it was riveting. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. I think even the camera angles kind of, like, turning around and going around them, not just,
Mhm.
like, looking back and forth between them, but
Right.
literally just, like, circling them, like, almost like a predatory,
Yeah.
and that and then, like, the subtle changes of music too, when she brought that up, like, because
Mhm.
everything seems like, "Oh, I'm trying to be your friend now, you're my role model," and then she's just like, "Still don't." It's just like, "Yes, girl." I'm like, I mean, granted, we all we like Janine,
She's gone through
we
a lot.
but she has gone through a lot, and I feel like especially she was trying to find happiness when escaping with June
Yeah.
and last season,
Yeah.
and she still gave that up to be with June, and
Mhm.
horrifyingly, she got captured by Gilead again. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
Janine doesn't have as strong of a countenance as the other girls, or as June. And granted, it's hard to have
Oh, yeah.
that kind of strength that June does.
Yeah.
A lot of people would break under those kinds of situations.
For
And
sure.
we've seen before, way back in season 1, the kind of mental strains that Janine already experiences, because they really
Mhm.
played up that she may not be all right up there.
Right. Right.
Because, I mean, what she was going to try and do with baby Angela, we already know all that. So I feel like she's just so defeated
Mhm.
that it is turning her into an aunt, or it is turning
Yeah.
her into this being that she would have herself would have hated. And
Right.
I'm not surprised. Maybe that, like, I feel like Esther could have been like, hey, this is a wake up call for
Mm.
Janine. Like, Janine could have been like,
Mhm.
yeah, like, I have changed. You're right.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm doing this, but we obviously didn't get that chance considering what happened.
Right. So with Esther then actually confessing her feelings towards Janine, saying, "I didn't like you from the start, still don't. Quite frankly, I fucking hate you." Because she feels that Janine lied to her
Yeah.
about what to expect by being a handmaid and what would happen to her. She was
Mhm.
told time and time again, "You follow the rules, you behave, you're gonna be okay." Well,
Mhm.
she's not gonna be okay. There's no way in hell that Esther's gonna be okay.
No,
So,
not at all.
rightfully so, she feels betrayed by Janine. And like Serena and like June, Esther takes things into her own hands.
Mhm.
But this was so mind-blowing, and I have questions, obviously. We both have questions.
Yes.
The fact that while they're eating these chocolates, right? And, they're eating them regularly, no caution to the wind of anything.
Mhm.
But Esther builds it up and she's like, and I'm so fucking happy basically of what's gonna happen next, in other words. And then Esther starts coughing up blood. And Janine's like,
Mhm.
"What the hell is happening? What the hell's happening? Help, help, help. What the hell is happening?" And then eventually Janine starts coughing up blood. Now these women are like coughing up so much blood. One's on
Yeah.
the floor, both are on the floor actually. And then the aunts come in, including Aunt Lydia. And they're like, "No, no, no, like someone get help, someone get help." And then the way that the scene ends with these women is that they both pass out because of all the blood they're coughing up.
Yeah. And
So
it ends so fast after that too. We
and
don't
so
know,
fast. Right.
will they be back? We don't know if they'll survive that.
So, first question, what the hell did Esther use to poison the chocolates? Because previously, we've known that she knew how to poison her commander through use of, I think it was nightshade or some kind of, poisonous plant,
Yeah.
which was also used to poison the commanders at Jezebel's.
Yes.
I don't know how or if she would have kept any when she was brought to the Red Center, but we know that the handmaids have access to cleaning products, and some cleaning products
Mhm.
obviously are incredibly dangerous to the human body. And I hope we get an explanation as to what was used to poison
Yeah,
these women.
because, I mean, most of I'm not a botanist, but most of I do know that a lot of poison plants, um, have a reaction to skin, just by touch
Mhm,
anyway. So, I mean, even and we know that whatever plant it was that they were using for Jezebel's and, prior
mhm.
was one of those plants, because June and Esther were wearing gloves.
Yes,
We know this.
yes,
But even then, how would she have smuggled that? They go through
exactly.
such a intense process
Mhm.
to, basically,
Screen
not
them,
just
basically.
physically strip down the girls, but
Yeah,
to literally do that. So
yeah.
I cannot see a way where she could have kept a concealed cloth of whatever poison she chose.
Mhm.
Um, and it could have been a cleaning product, but even then, like I told you off screen, if it was a cleaning product, you could smell
What
it,
was
much
it?
less taste it.
Yes,
And
exactly.
Janine was eating those,
Yeah.
she took a
Yeah, she
hefty
was.
bites of them.
She did.
I don't know if she had 2 or not, but she definitely had a good chunk of them, and I'm just like,
She did.
yeah,
So
so
so it leads to the question of, are these women not long for this world? Are they gonna die? Are they just gonna be, like, in a coma kind of thing? And because I have this theory about Janine becoming an aunt, what if by being poisoned, it somehow messes up her reproductive organs and she
Mhm.
therefore is not suitable to be a handmaid anymore? Well, instead of sending her off to the colonies, that could further put her into the position of being an aunt if Aunt Lydia made the case for it.
Yeah. Or what I was even thinking is another, like, it wouldn't make her infertile, but it could definitely make her of a weaker disposition.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, that poisoning can really mess you up
Oh, yeah,
depending
for
on what
sure.
you're using.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, there's reasons why during at like actual gardens that have deadly plants like that, they have so many emergency things on call because no matter how many times you warn people, things like
Yeah,
that can happen in varying degrees.
for sure.
So it's just, yeah, they're not long for this world, but how long are they? Because
Mhm.
they last season, not just last season, but we lost a lot of the main handmaids
We
that were
did.
from like June's original bunch.
Mhm.
What's a group of handmaids called? Um,
Cattle, I don't know.
I don't wanna call it cattle, it's
I
for
know,
lack
but
of a better word.
you know what I mean.
A fruit basket?
Oh
Um,
goodness. Chocolate balls? I don't know.
alright, we need to have better jokes.
Ba-dum-bum.
We, um
Yeah,
most
we
of them
lost a
died,
lot of
like
handmaids. Yeah,
Alma and them,
yeah,
they died,
they're all
horribly,
gone.
by the way, like, I
Yeah.
it was a horrible thing, and it was very
Mhm.
sudden, and Janine was definitely taken aback by it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the only ones we have left are June, Emily, and Janine,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, those are
Yeah,
the
because
only ones.
Moira, even though she was at Jezebel, she escaped the
Kinda
handmaid
counts.
life. Yeah, so
Kinda counts,
no.
but kinda doesn't.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, it's curious with,
yeah.
I was just taken aback, like, "Whoa, this happened," and then also, are they killing off these characters that
Mhm.
quickly? I hope not. I don't think so,
I
but I
don't think
think
so, and I hope not,
yeah,
because it's only episode 2,
I know, and
and
we've got 8 more episodes
and a
for the
whole 'nother
season,
season,
and a whole other
and
season.
like I was saying, like, this is one of 3 remaining handmaids that we have
Mhm.
from the original group,
Yeah,
and I was just, if they do kill them off or if that's what they're leading up to,
yeah,
I'm kinda shocked about that because it's
me
just,
too.
like, we already lost so many, people, like, is everyone going to die by the end of the show kind of thing?
It's like Game of Thrones, no one's safe.
True,
Don't
true.
have a favorite character, no one's safe.
That's true,
But
that's true.
yeah, I think they'll be around. They'll probably be incapacitated for some period of time, but I don't think we're gonna see them die off just yet. But like I said, there's 8 more episodes for the season. Like you mentioned, we've got a whole other season after this one to look forward
Mhm.
to, so we'll just have to
Yes.
wait and see if these handmaids are gonna survive, and maybe even if Esther's gonna be the new June, and if Janine's gonna be the new Aunt Lydia. Good grief.
I
Good grief.
I don't know if Janine would be Aunt Lydia per
But you know
se,
what I mean.
but
Yeah.
yeah, no, I know what you mean. She'd be a parallel definitely, but or a
Yeah.
foil of some sort.
Yep.
But I 100% can see Esther becoming that way because I mean, seeing what just like what she did with Janine just now, I would, if she does survive and they
Mhm.
do get them into, if she does continue to be handmaid for the Putnams,
Yeah.
that man's gonna die.
Oh,
Like,
everybody gonna die. Everybody.
Well, yeah,
Everybody.
everybody gonna die, but I'm just like, I'm not surprised at all. Like, I would not
Yeah.
be surprised. I feel like if she does actually become the handmaids for the Putnams,
Yeah.
that's just, you know, Warren Putnam signing his own death warrant.
Oh, goodness.
Like,
Yeah. Without a doubt.
well, also with how he treated her with the chocolates. Like, I'm
I know. I know. That man is just asking for it, and he should rightfully receive whatever he bestows. Just
true.
saying. So I want to say quick shout out to Mel from Geeking Out with Melly Mel. Thank you so much, lady, for joining us. We're actually
Yeah,
about to wrap up
thank you.
our live stream about The Handmaid's Tale. So, but we do love you and appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. It means so, so much. But yeah, Amber, this pretty much wraps up the premiere of season 5 of The Handmaid's Tale, episodes 1 and 2. Next week, we're going to get episode 3. We'll be back to do a review on that episode. So if you enjoyed this live stream, please give us a like. Also, subscribe to the Watchers in the Basement, as well as Amber's YouTube channel, OllivAmber's Wands. I'm going to leave her information in the description box down below. So that wraps it up, Amber. Thank you so, so much for being here. This was a great conversation.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you so much for, just talking about it with me. I really enjoyed this show, and I've never really had anyone to discuss it with because, um, I had friends and family who were watching the show, and
Mhm.
they were like, after season 1, they're like, "It was too much for me. I can't do it."
Yes.
So, and again,
So, yeah, Mel,
yeah,
I'm
and
putting
kind of
her
like
comment
how,
up here.
yeah, with a Melly Mel, Mel, please read trigger warnings before you watch the show.
Trigger warnings for sure.
It is a
It's
very,
rough,
very good show.
but it's rough.
It's rough. Yeah, I recommend, and I have a friend currently who I was told her that we are doing this podcast and
Mhm.
that we're covering Handmaid's Tale, and she said that she's heard good things about it and she wants to start watching it. I told her about the trigger warnings, and
Yeah.
I told her what I did. I was like, "Hey, every like 2 or 3 episodes, you might just wanna put on a Disney movie or, like, a
Yeah,
comedian that you like,
that's
watch
a good
cute
way of putting it.
videos about wholesome puppies being rescued, something like
Something.
that
Yeah.
to counteract all the,
There's a
trauma."
lot of bad crap that happens, like, let's just be real.
Yeah.
But, yes, I encourage you to watch this show in your
Mhm.
own time and love to hear your opinions about it as well. So,
Yes.
we are gonna go ahead and wrap up, but before we sign off, I do wanna say to those out there, go ahead and follow the Watchers in the Basement on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're also growing our audience, and you can help make that happen, if I can talk, by using hashtag Watchers Basement to spread the word about us. We just reached 100 subscribers. We're actually just a little over 100 subscribers. Yay. But the new goal, 200 subscribers. Let's make it happen, y'all. And don't forget to subscribe, obviously, to this YouTube channel. Like helps out the algorithm. But you can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, thanks to anchor.fm. Please give us a 5-star rating. Once again, it does help out our channel so, so much. So, oh, before we sign up, Mel asks, is it the same caliber as Game of Thrones? The drama is pretty real, but the
Yes.
subject matter that's going on, let's just kind of, we can talk a little, well, there's a lot that goes on in this show that's very similar to what's happening in our country today.
Yeah.
That's where I'm gonna leave it.
I will to briefly put it, I will say that Game of Thrones is a lot of intense fantasy stuff.
This, not
Well,
so much.
yeah, this is near distant future, not even distant. It's very like at the time that it
Now.
was written, the book was written, yeah,
Yeah,
it was the distant future.
yeah.
Now it's kind of the present. And
It's a little scary.
um
A little scary.
so it's a lot more real world traumas, things that are reasonable to happen. And granted, there are things that do happen in Game of Thrones that are terrible that do happen in real life. But this, I feel like, especially with, like Brittany said, with the situation of the world and its state today, it can be overwhelming.
A little bit. But
So,
we can talk more about that offline, Mel, if you're interested.
Yeah.
And yeah, how many seasons? Right now, we are in our 5th season. Each season has a different amount of episodes, but they're each about an hour long or so.
Yeah.
But interesting show, to say the least. Check it out. Just watch the first episode, and then you can decipher if you want to continue or not. No pressure whatsoever. But we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, Amber. So thanks again for joining me. We will be back next week to discuss the next episode of The Handmaid's Tale. We hope you can join us next week, and y'all have a great rest of your night, day, morning, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
We'll see y'all next week.
Under her eye.
Praise be.